So I live in Holland, in Amsterdam. I graduated at 1988 after being a pharmacy assistant, after being a social worker. I finally found my way to go to art school. After I graduated in painting and monumental environment. But you can see I work difficult. I have polio, so I thought I can't do the heavy work. So I decided to be a painter. But after 10 years, I'm not a painter. I discovered I'm not a painter. I can't draw. So you can't deny the person you are. You have to be connected with yourself. So I started to do the living room. I go to one. So So this is the first series I made. I started in my own house. This is the only self-portrait I made. So I used all the spaces in my house. I piled up with all the things I found, all the books and everything, the household belongings from myself and friends and family. I just piled up, and here I'm laying under a lot of clothes. You can see? But actually all my work are self-portraits. This is the only one with my figure. Oh, this is the last one. I did a lot of work in this series, I think about 20. So I just give you an impression of the start of working with space. But here the space is only, there's not a lot of depth. It's only one perspective. There's a lot of color, so later it will change. Oh, the other side. This is in my studio. Here I didn't pile up only horizontally, but also vertically. I don't know. Oh, yeah. And also in this series, I worked with the polarity, chaos and order, falling, standing up, falling down. And here it was my first attempt to make a ceiling which is broken. I liked the lines. It's very primitive, but I like. And here I worked for the first time with rubbish from broken houses, destroyed houses. I just pushed it in the wall. And after this work, I considered why I shouldn't work, why couldn't I work in a house just to destroy a house? So then I started my series of the destroyed houses. Until now, I realized 7. Oh no, I have also the archive series. I started with that 2002, just in my studio and also some in museums. I collected all broken pieces of destroyed houses. And I just put them in an archive. So the burnt wood next to the burnt wood, the cables to the cables, the broken tiles to the broken tiles. So I just piled them up. And you can see that they are very abstract. Most of the time I worked with black and white, or separated only blacks or only white. So everything is broken and subsequently sorted and filed away. If the Destroyed House series, which you will see next to it, is related to architecture, the archive series chooses a more formal and abstract starting point. The great diversity of materials used produces a wealth of textural qualities that refer strongly to 17th century Dutch paintings. The use of color in these series is mostly black and white, or only white or only blacks. The works in the archive series are highly minimalistic in character, which refers to directions in art as zero and minimal art. So I made, this I realized in a museum. It was a museum with a shed roof. You know a shed roof? It's like this, and here is the glass, and then another one with glass, you know? So it was on a floor 6 meter high, and I constructed it in the roof. And this was the black one. So, and the visitors could see me at work. Recently, I did an assignment for the temporary Hall of Justice in Amsterdam. And in my studio, I realized 5 new works in the series of the archives. These I worked, constructed in a dimension of 8 meters by 4 meters in reality. And the photos now in the Hall of Justice are also 8 meters by 4 meters. I will show more of. This is another one for the Hall of Justice. So, and here I start with the series, The Destroyed Houses. I started with that series in 2007. This is the first one. It's in 's-Hertogenbosch in the south of Holland. And it was a former snack bar and a living house. This is the second one, is Destroyed House Krasnoyarsk. It's in Russia. It's in Siberia. It was a communal house with 27 spaces. And I connected 13 spaces, and the other half of the house I used as a material, but you will see it later. This is Destroyed House Piet Mondriaanstraat. You know Piet Mondriaan, a famous Dutch painter. I did this in four-room apartments in a concrete building, flat, from 1960, and it belongs to a social housing company. 3 times I worked together with a social housing company. So most of the time they have plans to demolish the whole building after my intervention, and they invite me to make a work there, also as a kind of farewell to the building. This is Destroyed House Bloemhof in Rotterdam. Here I worked also with a social housing company, and here I received 6 4-room houses from 1910 in the south of Rotterdam. This was Destroyed House Op Noord, also in Amsterdam, also with a social housing company. And here I received 8 flats. This is Destroyed House Leiden. I cooperated with the municipality of Leiden and Museum de Lakenhal. After my intervention, they destroyed 4 dwellings. 2 were from 1611 and 2 were from 1901. And this is Destroyed House Gaza, my last project. I finished it only 3 weeks ago. I'm still a little bit, I do call it, my head is still in Gaza. So I start with Destroyed House, my first destroyed house. Oh no, I will say something some more general. I will give you some more general information of my work. There's only a short list of artists who cut into buildings, artists who perforate buildings. Gordon Matte Clark is a pioneer of the transformation of architecture into sculpture. Richard Wilson and Urs Fischer are two other artists who sometimes use this medium. For the rest, it's remarkable silence. Like Gordon Matte Clark, my installations dialogues with architecture in a disruptive way. Unlike Gordon Matte Clark, I block out daylight. Unlike Gordon Matte Clark, I add new architectural sculptures created from demolition waste. Where Gordon Matte Clark ended, he died unfortunately at young age, I started. But I realized my first destroyed house, and I never heard about Gordon Matte Clark. But after my first house, people told me, you have to look at Gordon Matte Clark. That's why I say now I started where he ended. In the Destroyed House series, a house that should be a beacon of safety, the forces of construction and destruction battle for priority, manifesting themselves in monumental constructions. In my work, the constructive force of building and the force of destruction and decline go hand in hand. To me, the polarity of construction, destruction, falling, standing, chaos, and order is an essence in human condition. A diabolic conflict, Dostoevsky argues that overcoming this polarity is beyond human power. In the essay of Wilma Suto, a Dutch curator, she argues that my Destroyed Houses series, it is the psychology of the house. Psychology of the house. It's the mental inner space, the subconscious of the architecture that is excavated. Decay and chaos, not only as opposites, but also as building bricks of development, resulting in an endless change of change, emanating from force and counterforce. As a person and as an artist, so there's nothing different between the two, I'm engaged in social issues to an increasing extent in how people live together or how they fail to do so. I've been preoccupied with extreme war events for all my life, and the current areas of conflict, the excesses of power and greed have my permanent interest. My work with a recognizable autonomous visual arts language refers to the forces of construction and destruction in man, a diabolic conflict between the two that never can be won or overcome. In fact, my decision to realize Destroyed House Gaza in Gaza has always been hidden in my work. Working in a building destroyed by war thus felt as a necessary new step. So I take architecture to make a sculpture out of it. Large parts of ceilings, floors, walls are cut away, creating new perspectives on existing architecture. Floors are tilted or cave in, Ceilings have been slanted or bent. Walls have been broken out, partially or completely. Floors drop straight down, becoming walls, or fall to form a diagonal cross. Everything is both standing and tilt. Everything is on edge. The deconstructions create a certain disorientation, putting spectators off balance. Especially the fact that floors and ceilings are off plumb deeply affects existential feelings of unsafety. The destructions applied are the starting point for me to construct a new artistic image, using demolition waste from the buildings themselves. What was first destroyed systematically is given a continuation in the construction of a new image with materials from the buildings. The forces of destruction have been transformed into an artistic, abstract language of imagination and beauty and meaning. A transformation of mostly small dwellings, small ordinary houses, into a monumental spatial experience. In the transformation, the work transcends banality, offering a certain extent of sublimation. Beside a raw visual language of chaos and demolition and destruction, my work has a highly abstract and minimalist character. What usually remains hidden behind walls, in architecture you can't look through walls. Now in my work, rooms are interrelated. So now you have a perspective on the architectural structure of the building and also on the social structure of the building. The interventions generate a new perspective on the building. At the outside, most of the time you cannot see the installation. Only in Gaza, the house from the outside became also a sculpture for the first time. I will show you the images from Gaza. Each project is preceded with after intensive consultation with the owner. Most of the time it is a housing association or a developer, and also with the local authorities, with the officials of the local government. For every project I need 2 really heavy licenses. It's the same as when an engineer wants to start to build a new building. So it takes about 4 months to get the licenses. And I think I read the book about Gordon Matta Clark, and many times he failed in finding a building and receiving the licenses. Sometimes he locked himself up in a building. He worked there for 1 month, and then he opened the building, and half a day later the police took him out already. And one project in Anvers, Antwerpen, it was it never succeeded because of the licenses. And all the time I have the support of the local governments. They assist me. Everybody wants the project to be a success. So I can be happy to realize already 7 projects. The preparation takes about 4 or 5 months from each project. And I work together with a contractor, with a contractor. I have some one technical assistant, and many times also 1 or 2 students. I will. I closely work in two disciplines. So first there is the architectural installation, and secondly, on the basis of the architectural installation, I make autonomous photo works. I say autonomous because you can. Now I will read it. The two realities, both in the architectural installation and in the photo works, they have two different qualities and imaginations. People react to the photos with disbelief, not being able to imagine that this is reality, that so much work was done. The photo works do not aim to record the installation, but to create an autonomous image that can stand on his own. The photo works are constructed from several digital files. I showed you the archives. Every compartment has been photographed alone, but all from one perspective. So the camera is in the middle, I go like that, but every compartment is one single photo, and with Photoshop I connect them to one photo. So in this way I maximize the perspective, creating an autonomous image. In my eyes, art refers to essences in human existence through an artistic language. Art makes statements about this, poses questions, confuses, but also offers comfort and beauty to spectators. Art is an important medium for gaining knowledge and insights in human existence. So now, I will a small quote of Ludo van Halem. He is curator 20th century in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. Only one quote. In this construction, destruction has been temporarily halted, and the spectator is emphatically confronted with the failure of all that is human, just like ourselves. Marjan Teeuwen architectural installations will eventually turn to dust, temporary as they are. In that sense, they can actually be interpreted as still lives, presenting us the memento mori as a vanitas, but at the same time, at its reversal, an homage to the power of construction. So, Destroyed House in the snack bar in 2007. So here I took out, this was the first installation. I never worked with the building. So by taking out the floors and the ceiling, I created a new perspective. And I piled up all the rubbish I found. So here in black and white. This was the former bedroom of the owners. I know how excited I was after making the first hole in the floor. So I made, out of this installation, I made 3 photo works. Here you can see the floor which has been taken out, and the ceiling. Here I left a part of 1.15 meters, at the end there's nothing, you can see. So creating the perspective, and now it became very abstract. So here stayed 1.50 meters, and here 0. This is the second one. I made 3 holes in the walls, so you got the perspective on the other rooms. We stripped the whole snack bar. We saw everything in small pieces, and I piled it up. So it's all the material came from the snack bar. Here it's only the wood color and the whites, and the perspectives on the 3 rooms, it's only the white material. And after my installation, the houses are destroyed every time. Sometimes there is 1 month left for visitors to come. Sometimes there are 2 or 3 months left. And here I think only 1 week. I like the destruction of the buildings afterwards. So this was Russia, Destroyed House Krasnoyarsk. I was invited by Museum Center Krasnoyarsk. It was for the Krasnoyarsk Biennale. I received the special prize for the Biennale. It was in a Russian wooden house, a communal house. It was on the, want to tell this, the Dzerzhinsky Ulicy. Dzerzhinsky was the main figure in the secret service of the Soviet Union, responsible for many, many deportations. And the house, it was empty for about 5 years. Perhaps you know the photos of Boris Mikhailov. He made photos of the Soviet Union after the collapse in Russia and also in Ukraine. So many homeless people lived in the house, but when I started this, lived outside the house. It was really, how do you call it? when you know the photos of Boris Mikhailov, a desperate atmosphere of people having no homes. I worked here also. One of the workers in the museum happened to be an engineer. That was all. And I had some technical men to assist me. It was a beautiful house, and after my intervention, it was destroyed, and the Czech embassy built a new office here. This was the invitation for the opening, a wooden door. This was how we found the house. People living there, sleeping there. So it was a lot of work to clean the house. No. Every day there were 4 or 5 students from university who came to assist me. So also here we stripped the whole building. Later you will see the photo, but here it's everything for the inside. From the half of the house we cut in pieces, and I used it here. So this is the end result. The black and the blue wood is from the outside, so the total outside we brought inside. And I made holes in the I made holes in the floor, in the ceiling, left and right. This is the first space. This is the second space. This is the third and the fourth. So you have perspective on 4 rooms. by cutting pieces out of the walls. Very simple, in fact. And this is the opposite. During the work, in the process, so when I start, I have my sketches. I have my starting point. But in the process, always I find new perspective, new ways of dealing with the situation, new ideas. So here, at the end, the perspective is focused on rubbish. There I collected all the rubbish and I thought, I need a perspective on the rubbish. Here's for the first time that people say, your work is also related to Piranesi. You know Piranesi? This is from the ceiling, and then you can see the bottom. This also. When I go too fast, please let me know. I will say some things about Krasnoyarsk. So, I go back. So the black holes, in fact, I connected 13 rooms with each other, and the holes form a not perfect circle, a deconstructed circle. It's a circle that clearly falls apart, but also forms one whole. All material from the installation was taken from the communal dwelling: doors, windows, sills, floors, walls, and ceilings. I told already that the whole exterior came in the building. A notice of parasitism is fitting here. The building is consumed, as it were, only to flourish one last time in a concentrated part of the house. In the transformation, the work transcends banality, offering a certain extent of sublimation. The pilings profilate through the building like a kind of virus, settling in a powerful center. Associations with a body affected and worn out by life, generating wisdom and insight, are manifest. The visitor has been feeling, what people say is that they are bringing out of balance. They feel, many times they say, I have a feeling of insecurity because nothing is straight. Everything is out of balance. It was for me amazing that the language of art is international. In Holland, the visitors perhaps more view with the... No, I'm sorry, I have to... Oh yeah, it's here, okay. The reactions and remarks in Russian are very similar to those in Holland. What is remarkable is that most visitors from Krasnoyarsk do not view the installation from an art historical context, but rather through the direct gaze, which is closely linked to the often raw banality of their own lives. I experienced the same in Gaza. For this installation, I received I had been awarded for the Grand Prix of Krasnoyarsk. So this is Piet Mondriaan, Destroyed House, Piet Mondriaanstraat. The name is after the street. It was just the Piet Mondriaan Street. So it was a concrete flat from 1960. I received four rooms, apartments, and the social housing company, they destroyed the whole flat. So they gave me permission to strip the whole flat. At the end, we used about 350 doors, for example, from all apartments we brought into 4 apartments. So concentrated, concentration of. When I started, some people lived still in the building, but they left in 3 weeks. In the beginning, we had a lot of, agreements how to deal with the noise, etc. I just show you some photos of the process. So here also I worked with the contractor, and there was a construction report. I started with the same contractor in the first destroyed house, and in totally I did 5 projects with him. He understands my language, he understands what I need, he wants to go to the limits, just as I want to do it. Yeah? Oh, sorry. So here I took out many floors. So you can see about 8 meters depth. It was a concrete building. And here you see all the piling, the 350 doors, all the sinks, the doors of the sinks, we stripped many apartments, just brought it into the 4 apartments and made a new image out of it. One part was very roughly, like a bomb had been exploded, and the other side was a lot of order. I never know which side I have to go. I'm surprised at the end by all the perspectives. When I start, I have 3 central perspectives. That's my plan, that's my concept. But in the process, of course, I can't imagine all perspectives. So this is one of the photo works at the end. So you can, because it was a social housing flat, you can also see the social structure of the building. This were all kitchens here, with the bathroom, and this was sleeping rooms. So you see all the kitchens and all the sleeping rooms just piled up. So you can see the social structure of the building, and you can also see the architectural structure of the building when you take out a lot of walls and floors and ceilings. Here we made one, how do you call it in English? No. One part of the floor, so this became a rectangle in 3 floors, 1, 2, 3. But it's in the same time, it's very abstract, like a painting. So 1 rectangle and 1 circle. Here we took out a circle of the floor, a circle out of the ceiling. when somebody wants to ask something, please let me know. How many flats? 200. So we took out all the materials from many, many, many apartments.
You work the pieces, you work it in situ in the same place?
Yes. Yes. So all the materials from 100 apartments we brought into 4 apartments. And there we did the sewing. And there I do the whole piling by myself. I don't do the heavy work by carrying the doors 5 steps up, 5 staircases up, 5 staircases down. I don't do that. But I do the whole piling. It's my handwriting. I have to do it by myself. And I only can think, I only can let speak my intuition when I work with my hands. So I can not sit down on a chair and direct everybody, you do that and you do the... It's not possible. I can only think by working with my hands. But it came off. It's many, many doors and sink, the sink, the wood of the sinks. This is Destroyed House Bloemhof in Rotterdam. It is 2012. Here I received 7 4-roomed houses from 1920, also owned by a social housing company. Now I will show you. So it's just a long row of houses. You can't, at the outside, you can never see that an installation has been made in the inside. Next to it, there was a peep show. It was in the poor part, in the south of Rotterdam. This left is the contractor, Twan. I worked 5 times with him. This is his assistant, and Maya, she was a student. I am here the artist working. So here is a real crack of a ceiling. You remember my living house series where I tried to, but here's a real one. So I make a construction first before I start with the piling. This is more construction than I mostly do, because here I put all walls in a certain form, so not straight, but for example in this form, or no, I will tell you. Oh yeah, I will. So in fact, you could see 2 houses when we took away the walls. You could see 2 staircases.
How do you know where to do the wall? Which wall you can take off?
Yes.
How the floor?
For the safety?
Yeah.
You mean for the safety? Before I start, I make my sketch. I have to discuss it with the constructor. And with that construction report, we go to the local government, and they have to examine it. And when they agree, they give me a permit. But as I stated earlier, sometimes it's really difficult. I will tell you about Destroyed House Leiden. It's 2 Destroyed House later. I didn't agree with the contractor after 6 meetings, but I will tell you later. But here it was okay. The contractor here I left one staircase in it without the floor. So this is the result, the photo work which I ended at the end. So this is, in reality, it was about 11 meters. And the photo I made out of it is 4 meter 30, I think. So you see 3 abstract forms, and you have the perspective in the building. I demolished the floors. There was a lot of water in it. It's a kind of ruin inside. We took out pieces of the ceiling. I took out many walls to create these perspectives. But here you can see also that it is about destruction, demolition, it's about chaos, but also there is a lot of order, there is a lot of beauty, there's a lot of it's also abstract. So here one floor we put in this form with the crack. This came down a little bit, this came down also, and I put all walls in these shapes, all different shapes, and every room with a different material. I think this is the most abstract work I made. Sometimes I choose the perspective of more destruction, sometimes of more construction. Here you can see the staircase who stayed in it. So this is all the rubbish we piled up. This is another perspective of the same space. Some remarks on Destroyed House Bloemhof. So I told you already that the destruction sometimes creates a certain disorientation, putting spectators out of balance. In Rotterdam, in Rotterdam, Destroyed House Bloemhof, the reactions of the people were more extreme, and it has to do with the fact that in Rotterdam during the Second World War, most of the city has been bombed then, and sometimes people were really angry that they saw something like that again, or people were very insecure because of the experiences of the war. But in Rotterdam, it was very obvious that sometimes the spectators, the visitors, sometimes they are focused on seeing beauty, and they see a lot of beauty, and sometimes visitors are focused on seeing the disaster. It's just very personally, what do you see? Also with journalists, some journalists pointed out, there's so much beauty in it. And I feel the disaster, I feel being out of balance. It's very personal, what you see. And many people suggested they gave names to Destroyed House Bloemhof, a chapel of silence, rooms for meditation, a temple or a cave church. But for sure, they named it is a ruin that flourishes only one time, the last time. The Tower of Babel, you know the story of the tower, also the painting of the Tower of Babel, is mentioned many times. So all the installations, many people come, I think here 3,000. It was open in the same time with an important art fair in Rotterdam, and we found a connection between the art fair and my house. So special buses, visitors could take buses from the art fair to my house. So this is Destroyed House op Noord. It's also Amsterdam. I received 8 flats from a social housing company. In fact, they destroyed 200 apartments on that area. And they gave me, every time when I needed rubbish, I just had to call them, and then they put containers in front of my door, as much as I wanted. But at the end, when the installation was finished, they were still demolishing that hundreds of apartments, and sometimes there were big heaps of concrete or sand or cables everywhere around my installation. And it was a kind of performance, all the bulldozers, and sometimes there were the fire brigade had, how do you call it? They, with their dogs, they had to, how do you call it? Practice. So it was like a total installation, my installation, and the surroundings of. This was a concrete building, so sometimes I work in a wooden building with wood construction, and sometimes it's concrete like this. So you see, it's really like, when I see the photo back, it's really like a war zone, something like a war zone. So the beginning is always to put the construction. Did you had answer on my question? I think now of the construction, sorry. That's the first. So the contractor is responsible for everything about construction. And there is in this, the first report was dismissed by the local government. They didn't agree. They were nervous about my project. The officials at the local governments, they never saw something like this, so sometimes they put a lot of extra charge on me. So there has to be, we had to make a new construction report, and that meant that a lot of extra steel has to come in. I think altogether for this project we used 11 ton of steel, yes. A huge amount of steel. Just to make, and here also carrying a lot of doors, a lot of rubbish. So here we are lifting floors. The contractor is lifting floors. So you see all the apartments which are destroyed in the same time. Here we are letting fall floors, becoming a wall, becoming walls. This is the contractor. One floor has been slanted. So out of all the rubbish, I made 8 architectural sculptures, architectural forms. It's a lot of work to, it's like a monk, work like a monk. And this is the upper floor, and here all the steel beams are connected with the floors and finding stabilization for the whole building. I like the floors coming up, going down. And here 2 floors became a cross. And this was a photo from a journalist. He wanted us to work. So here you see Teeuwen, everybody. And that was Ludo van Halen from the Rijksmuseum, and she is the director of the social housing company. This is my personal assistant, Teeuwen. And this man, then we finished, and then the man of the fire brigade came. And he was angry that we didn't inform him earlier, and I can stop the whole, I can stop everything, and he was really nasty. But then I showed him the back of all the sculpture, and then he was really impressed that I was very kind to him. And then finally, and then when the public came in, it was called with a student. So this is one of the photos who came out. The concrete floors in the cross. This floor came a little bit down, I think 60 centimeters. That sculpture I made out of doors, completely out of doors. And I've chosen all the differences in white. Every apartment, the people use another color white. So you see all the color white. And this was all the rubbish, just pushed in, but never straight. Here are the 8 sculptures. So this is the floor, which came down, like here. The other floor came there. So you see the second floor. You see the dancing ceiling. It's all in a different shape. This is the other side. I like the crosses, and also the staircase is an important part of this photo. Here you see also the ceiling with all the steel. In the beginning I hated the steel, that many steel, but later it turned out that it also emphasizes the shapes. So then I loved it, in fact. This is also another perspective from the fallen floors. In down, how do you call the store, the spaces where people can store their things? I destroyed it to a certain level, like a ruin. Visitors called it the war zone. And when you came to the first floor and second floor, every perspective you could see that ruin or that, so it influences the whole installation. Here you see the ceiling who became floor. Here another one. And this is the top floor where you can see the construction and all the floors, the dancing floors. Destroyed House Leiden. This was the cooperation with Museum de Lakenhal in Leiden in 2015. So 4 houses, 2 houses from 1611 and 2 houses from 1901. To the right, that's the building from 1901. There was a sex shop, also a sex shop. And the owner had one hobby. So this was the sex shop. This part the owner lived. And this part his 300 pigeons lived. Pigeon, yeah? And the two other houses that was rented by one man who lived there. But the differences in age was very exciting for me. So 1611 is 5 years after the birth of Rembrandt. In the old houses, I found fireplaces. I found a lot of burnt bricks, and I used them, but I only found white Gouda pipes. They are the white. We found a lot in the ground. The Art Nouveau tiles, a Pieter de Hoog mural, very ancient, but it was very destroyed. Later, I showed you the archive work I did for the Justice of the Hall of Justice. There, I took all the fired bricks from Leiden to my studio to make the archive series out of them. So I can throw away very easily rubbish, but when they are bricks from 400 years and burned for 400 years, I can throw them away. Here you see the same contractor, Twan, bringing in the steel. Every installation is the same story. Bringing in the steel, the son of the contractor. One was 80 centimeter, one steel beam. That was the big one. Piling up. So I let fall 2 floors in a cross, but 2 crosses. Here's another one. And I piled up columns like in a cathedral from all the waste, all the Here you see the old bricks, the burnt bricks.
Excuse me, you're not afraid that everything falls down before the end of the installation?
Yes, it can happen every time. And sometimes it happens. Yes. But I work with the technical assistants, and he is responsible. Yes, he's carrying it all the time. No, this was, for example, very difficult, because this was a balcony without a ceiling. So I made a kind of blob. So we made a new construction for it, but it was round. So it was very difficult. And we made a lot of segments going in all directions, like a broken mirror, a broken piece of glass. You can see it. This was very difficult.
You never attach your pieces together?
No, never with glue or something. No. All the time it's very primitive. Perhaps we can see. Oh, shit. Here you can see the construction. This is when the building was taken down. So you can see a simple construction. only, and then we put plates on it every 40 or 50 centimeter, and that's enough to hold it.
But sometimes the weight is too.
No, so every 40 or 30 centimeter we make one construction,
Okay.
and only with small pieces of wood, and then it's fastened between it. It can't fall down anymore. But it's very simple, but without is not possible.
You don't paint what you put together.
No, I use a lot of plaster and all the white things I found. Sometimes I paint also the wood. This is one of the works, one of the photo works. This is all the pieces. So we found the whole building was plastered by plaster plates. So I cut it, and I piled up the columns out of it. But these are the small pieces, the rest pieces. I just put them in. Nothing, there was no order. But when you see the whole image, there's still order. But I just put it in. I didn't do anything. But for me, that's kind of magic. That the simple, only when you give a little bit of order, there is already something. It's not rubbish anymore. That transformation of first being rubbish and then having a meaning or beauty. But here I made the plinth with black materials I found here. Oh, only this one. So this is, we worked 4 months, almost 5 months. Here you see the 2 crosses and the pilings, the columns, the 2 columns. And after 4,000 visitors had been there, I started with photography, and I was not satisfied with the photographs. And then I demolished the whole columns, all the columns. And then I liked the image much, much more. So as an artist, you never know. You have your starting point, and you just process, and you see. So there you see the structure. You see the structure? It's very simple. And you see small pieces coming out, but no, this is a piling. Only one, and I can connect it in between. Just hold in between 2 small. And also the ceiling, I used the carpet from the sex shop on which men walked, mostly men I think, walked 40 years, and we made just a simple structure to the roof. And this is, I called it a ruin sculpture. It's made of, this is the old part, this is the old wall from 1611. And behind, you can see it here, behind was the fireplace. And we found other chimneys, so here's more black wood. But this sculpture was made out of the floors. So this floor came from there. This floor came from here. This is lifted up. That floor came from there. So it's a hanging sculpture made from the floors there on that. Only give them another position. And this is above what I told, above the balcony. That's the blob which we filled with. So Gaza. after 4 or 5 months of working, you can say that the only thing I did is reorganizing the house, just putting all the pieces on another spot. That's the only thing I do. So I will read a small text about Destroyed House Gaza. Recently, I realized Destroyed House Gaza in the Palestinian Territories. The installation is located in a Shad family house in Khan Yunis, Rafah, near the Egyptian border, in a building which was hit by a bomb during the last war, 2014. By that attack, one son was killed. The whole process I did under protection of the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. Here in Geneva, the headquarters of the Red Cross, and in the Arab countries, they are connected with the PRCS, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society. But they have the headquarters here in Geneva. Without them, I could never succeed. It's not possible for me to go in there alone. It's very dangerous. And they wrote an invitation for the Israel Defense Forces. And the invitation goes first to the Dutch embassy in Ramallah, and they sent it to the Israel Defense Forces, and I was very lucky to receive a permit 4 times. So I went 3 times to prepare my work, and the last time was 3 months from half of September just till Christmas. So the PRCS, from the beginning, they were very enthusiastic about my work and also about giving the Palestinian people a new perspective. What they say many times, we love art. It's not in the news anymore, but still we love art. So I decided to rebuild the house and turn it into an independent artistic statement. The architecture of this dwelling for itself was not that interesting, regular like most buildings in Gaza. But for me as an artist, the building had been bombed artistically in a very interesting way. When I came there for the first time in the buses of the Red Crescent, of the Red Cross is easier to say. So we went to search for bombed buildings, and after 3 years, many bombed building has been removed already. I only could find about 6 or 7. And I told it to the director of the Red Cross. His name is Jihad. And I said, it's difficult to find a building which has been destroyed artistically interesting. I thought when I can pronounce these words, I know I can be an independent artist and I can do it in an autonomous way. I don't want to give a political statement. I want to give an artistic statement. And the answer of Jihad was, so you need a fresh bombed building. So just to give you the atmosphere. So, and the Red Cross has to be neutral, without political intervention, without political, how do you call it? Statements. And I want to be. I'm not a politician. I'm a politician. I'm an artist. But for me, the artist was very interesting. Most of the walls were blown away by the bomb. There had been a big fire in several parts of the building. The construction of the house gave me the opportunity to dig in the ground for 1.50 meters. The house was already 45 years. In Gaza, it's really old. And it has a rich history, readable specifically by the pieces of bombs we found in the house. When we started, we found a big bomb, but the owner has discovered it already. So Hamas came to take it away. And then we started, we found another one, 1 meter big. It was removed immediately by Hamas. The family was a Hamas family. And they kept an eye on me also. The house belongs to the Hamas family, and it was bombed because it was an Hamas family who lived there. The location of the building was remarkable, next to the main road to Rafah, that's the border to Egypt, and you could see only empty trucks leaving Gaza in one direction and returning full packed into Gaza. So the people in Gaza are not allowed to export, to have trade. All these complex ingredients, architectural, social, and political, came together in this building and generated my artistic concept of Destroyed House Gaza. Choosing Gaza to execute a new architectural installation meant an important new step in my work. Working in such a politically highly sensitive area means that the context infiltrates my work in a powerful way. The tension between artistic and political meaning is accentuated. My aim, realizing an independent artwork within the existing framework of my own artistic development, so not a political statement. Thus, Destroyed House Gaza is strongly autonomous, abstract work of art. Art can offer a new perspective to the socially and politically troubled region, without judgment, without solutions. Instead, art offers a free zone connecting to given reality and yet completely independent. Here I would like to quote the Dutch philosopher and essayist Marjan Teeuwen. He wrote a text about my work from his recent book. That book is about art and engagement. And he states, the characteristic of art is precisely the ambivalence, the ambiguity, the imagination, the autonomous position, the openness of interpretation, free of social convictions and free of economic motives. Destroyed House Gaza is a monumental artwork in which the extreme forces of construction and destruction battle for priority. Everything is both standing and tilt. Ceilings have been tilt or cave in. Ceilings are removed to realize new perspectives and enlarge the building. The by war demolished buildings became new walls by let fall down 7 floors. It was only an open architectural structure. All the walls were blown away. With the debris from inside and outside the building, I erected new walls. Sie sprechen Deutsch wie eine Trümmerfrau. Who knows the word Trümmerfrau? Trümmerfrau. Yeah? No, it's used in Germany after the Second World War. The long lines of women with the buckets carrying out all the rubbish, all the debris. Yeah, long rows of women on all the ruins to clean up everything. And these women are called Trümmerfrau. And Marjan Teeuwen, who wrote the text about my book, you are like a Trümmerfrau. That's like, I like to tell that. New element in the new constructed walls is a pattern of small openings all over, through which the light from outside is softly screened. This in Gaza is the first time that light from outside comes in. I never did before. Stackings have been carefully arranged into 2 architectural columns. 2 columns, already partly destroyed by the bomb, received a new skin of rubbish, one black and one white. By rearranging the rubble into walls and by letting fall 7 floors, the ruin-like architectural structure became a new skin. There was no skin, it was just open. The ruin is transformed into space again. There was no space. When there are no walls, there's no space. So it became a closed space with a new skin. And in many senses, the spaces were very uploaded with energy, but you have to judge by yourself. The transformation of a bombed architectural structure into a closed, contemplative space strikes me again and again. The transformation is absolutely. You can still feel the history of the old building, but the energy is completely different. Monumental, intense, not common, an unconscious parallel world with his own intrinsic values, connected to reality, connected to war, and at the same time it's transformed into a new authentic world, an artistic world completely on its own. Both the political context and the still visible destruction by the bomb plays implicitly a big role in this installation. All around there's dust, debris, ashes. And in the same time, everything is completely different from war. War is 100% chaos. In Destroyed House Gaza, order is the most striking quality. By rearranging the broken pieces of the house into a new, meaningful and aesthetical architectural sculpture, I turned chaos into order. Thus, war was transformed into its opposite, artistic construction. Also, this work has a very highly abstract and minimalist character. And it has a delicate poetical beauty. For the first time in my career, both the inside and the outside are important parts of one architectural sculpture. Conclusion: after 3 months working period in Gaza, I cannot get closer to the polarity, construction and destruction than here in Gaza. Destroyed House Gaza reveals the extreme power of mankind to destruct the world, but also the essential power to rebuild it. Destroyed House Gaza is not specifically about Gaza, although it is located in Gaza, but it is about all past wars and all the future wars. Ernst van Alphen is a professor in Leiden. He visited my installation and also the director of Museum de Lakenhal. Both visited Gaza. And Ernst van Alphen, he said, here in Gaza, the work comes to its own. The political context of Gaza completes your work and gives it an urgent necessity, makes it actually, brings it to the actual actually. The installation has to be located here. It finishes your work. In Holland, art is more abstract. In general, more non-committal. Meta Knoll, the director of Museum de Lakenhal, who visited Destroyed House Gaza also, it is like a cycle of your destroyed series of destroyed house is completed here in Gaza. The opinion has been confirmed by the reactions of the Palestinian visitors and the press. The language of art is international. So in Gaza, it comes later, Reuters, they came unannounced to my house, and after Reuters, they sent it into the world, and about 20 television stations and agencies visited my house. They all have freelance, they work with freelance journalists in Gaza. They are all waiting for the next war, so they are ready to work. And so the agencies who came were the China News Agency, UPE from the United States, Central New Agency London, New Age France, newspaper journal The Arab News, Al-Quds Beirut, Sky News, Dubai News, Kuwait News, Al Jazeera, Palestine TV, Together Agency, Palestine Good Morning. Now, a lot of other Palestine news, Al-Aqsa, CNN, Saudi TV, now also a Dutch magazine. So it was very busy with journalists. And for me it was amazing that the people in Gaza, they understood the abstract language of my work, although everybody said it was so new for them. They never saw an architectural installation before. And the reactions show that the Palestinians are confronted with deep experience. People embraced my work. At first, they pointed the beauty of my installation. For them, beauty was the entrance to my work. And for me, it was amazing that they recognized the beauty in the reordered debris, their rubbish, their rubble. But the beauty was the entrance to a deeper layers of speculations and feelings about construction and destruction, and of course about war, which is so present in their extreme reality. The most visitors did not view the installation from an art context, but more from their own personal experience, the often raw banality of their own lives. The overwhelming attention of the press, the crowded opening, the overwhelming reactions of the visitors gave me the conviction that art has a voice, that art can speak to people, that an artistic statement can be powerful, not to judge or give a political signal. Contrary, art offers a free zone. In an artistic language, art is able to confront people with a new perspective, free of social convictions and economic motives. I will show you. This is the surrounding, all the women, how do you call it? There's no emancipation. I was very touched by the hierarchy. Men are in charge. woman can't say anything. It's just the context. This is my husband when we were there 1 year ago. Later, the last photo is just the same spot. See where he's standing. There are no walls. Later, you see the same spot I'm standing there in the new installation. So this to the right is the engineer. There's the female engineer, and there is a woman who assisted us. It's in the office of the Red Cross, and everywhere is the portrait of Arafat. He is the father of the country. So this is the hall made by the bomb. It's central in the building. And here we started with digging 1.40 meters out of, to bring all the sand out, 14 meters by 7 meters. It's a lot of sand. Sometimes there came a bulldozer. Here the steel is brought in, the same as usual. And they are not afraid of taking a big piece of concrete by their hands. They just do everything. That's the female engineer. So they take the steel beams by hands. I like this photo very much. Another with the steel beams. This was the ruin next to my building. In the beginning, I thought that I could use this ruin, but it was from another owner, and he didn't want. So here all the walls were blown away, so I closed all parts of the buildings. These walls are made out of the rubbish. But here an accident happened. The engineer didn't make any calculation. There were 2 engineers, but when we were working, the whole wall, 7 meters by 4 meters, came down. And we were happy all to stand apart. And it was connected to a crane. So, but it could have been a disaster. So it was still connected to the crane. So here you see they are lifting that piece of ceiling. And now you see a kind of video on that. You can see the man on the roof. Oh no, I've only one photo. I have more. This is the piece that came down accidentally. But then I decided to keep that piece. It's really in the correct shape for me. So I like that shape very much. So I kept that part. So this is that part. And the other one we made anew. Here you can see the walls made out of all the debris. So they are connecting the steel on the roof, the palm trees. Oh. So we are taking out a lot of floors. It's like a belly of... Here's the bomb, the hole of the bomb. Bringing up the steel. They all do it by hands. Still open building. And he had the T-shirt, "Rock this house." I liked it accidentally. That man was the bodyguard of the Minister of Inner Affairs of Hamas. But he worked also for the steel company. Here we are piling up all the walls. That's Mohammed, my personal technical assistant. The bomb, the whole of the bomb. So I put wood in between all the blocks, the debris. Bringing up the steel. Lunch, sometimes the neighbors brought couscous. The steel workers and the engineer who made the big mistake. He never worked by himself. He gave orders all the time. Ahmed, he worked a lot for me. He was that strong. So part of the installation. I let fall 7 floors. 7 floors became a wall. Here you can see 2 of them. Out of all, no, we burned a lot of tiles, a lot of block debris. We made big fires just in the house. I wanted to make 1 black column and 1 white column. And because there was a fire, I was inspired by the burnt materials. That's Mohammed and me. That's the house after the steel frame was connected. And here the first floors became a wall. So now here this part of the building has been closed. We took out a lot of floors, removing the steel. Another floor came down, not accidentally, but directed. Ahmed, who burns a steel beam, he was so brave. He was unbelievable. So this is the floor who came down accidentally. This I did on purpose. I like the shape. Here you see 2 others. Here is the white column. Here you see the white column and the fallen floor. The white column in construction, under construction. The black column. In the perspective, you see the other part of the installation. There I made a very abstract drawing of all the floors going up, falling down. But I also made, I think, 7 new concrete columns, just in the shape I wanted to have them. It's very abstract. And it's also a new element in my work. Here you see one. This was the director of the Museum of Leiden. The black column. Here you see all the shapes from the new columns and the floors which came down. So here it came down, there it goes up. But this is only half of that part. Here you see more. But I have to return to Gaza next week because many photos were not good. So I have to do photography again. The outside, another part of the outside. The ceilings. So you see all the cuttings in the ceilings. It's difficult to make photos out of it. Sometimes it's too much light and it's not enough. And so I made photos when the sun went down and also with the sun. And in that period I had only 3 days and it was not enough. just after all the television station, all the interviews. There were just 3 days left, and it was not enough. Here you see more columns. And this was my small museum of all pieces of bombs we found. And you can see 40 years. It was also from the Egyptian bombs. And the boys, they knew immediately from which war, which bomb was. Only pieces. The 2 photographers. And here I received a special prize from the mayor of Khan Yunis. I'm now how do you call it? I have the cityship of honor of the city of Khan Yunis. They were very, very happy. Now there was positive news about Gaza. They embraced my work a lot. And this is the director of the Red Cross. And here we danced. The Bedouin dance. It was really nice. And the photographers came in, and sometimes it rained in the building. Here photographers. And here more. And this is the last picture. The last photo.